You got Chris Godwin playing flanker slot, and then they drafted Emeka Egbuka in the first round. I love Emeka Egbuka.
Ibuka could catch the most passes of all rookie receivers, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
May be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
We close out with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a team that seems absolutely like dead set in concrete what they've got at wide receiver. You've got Mike Evans playing on the outside. You've got Chris Godwin playing flanker slot. And then they drafted Emeka Egbuka in the first round. I love Emeka Egbuka. We'll see what role he plays on this team as well. And then last year's third round pick, Jalen McMillan, man, he had a really strong close to the season in 2024. Obviously, that was when the team was decimated with injury, but still showed some signs of life after a very early season struggle. Came on strong late, and again, just adds a really interesting wide receiver 4 to a incredibly strong, front line top 3.
Yeah, and I think it's one of these rooms that it looks really good on paper, right? When you just lay all those names out there.
Yeah.
And that's why I think people sort of scratch their head at like, well, why did they draft Emeka Egbuka? And honestly, like, I think we should really talk about him in this section because he's been very buzzy in camp and like Baker Mayfield's just been very effusive in his praise of him. And I think there's a reason for that because this guy's going to be really important for this team. Because again, like Chris Godwin is coming off a serious injury. They're sort of kind of saying, oh yeah, we're expecting him to be ready for week 1, but they're not full throated. Like, oh yeah, he's gonna be ready for week 1. Like he hasn't been like practicing in team stuff yet in training camp as to this point when we're recording this in late July. So I think that like Emeka Egbuka, yeah, you're like, why did they draft him? Because like, it's what are we doing here? But Mike Evans, 30-plus-year-old receiver on the last year of his deal. I don't think I see any reason to think like, oh yeah, Mike Evans is on the decline, but you never know with receivers in their 30s, right? You never know. We talk about this all the time. The hardest thing to forecast is like wide receivers when they're going to hit the age cliff. Yeah, we know he's aging. Maybe he's a guy that continues to age gracefully. Was very good last year, but he also missed time with injuries, and he's kind of always got like a hamstring thing or something going on. And you don't want to be in the position you were in last year where, oh boy, we've lost Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Let's run the whole offense through Cade Otton for like 3 weeks, which was great. God. Liam Cohen did an awesome job with it. We're throwing screens to Bucky Irving, and Cade Otton is like replacing Chris Godwin as our number 1 read power slot player. Again, Liam Cohen's awesome. You don't have Liam Cohen again this year, so you never know. Like I think Josh Grizzard sounds like it's going to be a good hire there, but we just don't know. So I think like this is what good organizations do. They zero out like uncertainties, right? They make sure these things that we're talking about, well, we don't know, like this, that, and the other could happen. It's like, well, we'll just throw a first-round wide receiver who is an absolute dog into the mix here in Emeka Egbuka. Yeah. I mean, this guy is so good. I had him as a clear-cut second-tier prospect, not a guy that's like, oh, he's a fringe first round. Like, no, this guy's a first-round wide receiver in my eyes, and it's because like, yes, he was mostly a slot receiver at Ohio State with an 82nd percentile success rate versus zone coverage, but he still beat man coverage at 68%, 92nd percentile success rate versus press. He didn't see a ton of press coverage because he obviously was playing from the inside, but what he did see, we saw some pretty good results there. And not to mention, this is one of those offenses that, similar to what we talked about the Falcons, where everybody gets reps from the slot, because there's so much motion and there's so much like pre-snap eye candy. They were able to take a college slot receiver in Jalen McMillan last year, who was actually relatively better against man coverage than zone coverage as a prospect, and take him and move him from the slot and make him a primary outside receiver in his rookie season to great success, because they are able to blur these receiver role lines because they're pretty condensed and they also have so much motion. Like, I don't think Emeka Egbuka is just Chris Godwin's like backup or his replacement, like his injury kind of handcuff player or whatever you want to say. Right. Like he's going to have his own role here. And I think he's probably a sneaky candidate to be the most, I don't know if it's sneaky because he's a first round pick, but like he's a case because it's a good offense with a good quarterback. If something, Chris Godwin doesn't come all the way back, like Mike Evans, he could even still be good. And I still think Emeka Egbuka could be the most productive rookie wide receiver this year. Even though McMillan's walking into a day one starting role, because obviously Travis Hunter is the number 2 in Jacksonville, and he's going to move around between defense and offense. Like, Egbuka could catch the most passes of all rookie receivers, and I wouldn't be shocked.
I love Emeka Egbuka. I think after the catch, this guy's an absolute savage. A contested catch. Oh, come on, man. Like, this guy's going to go up and get it. Got great hands. And the one thing I'll say about Ibuka too is I know his man scores as a prospect were not good. 68% success rate versus man. That was as the prospect average was the 42nd percentile. I get that. That being said, Matt, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I don't see this guy as a slot only player. I just think because of his hands and because of his overall route running and stuff like that, I do think that he can play outside. And can I throw a little bit of I don't know if this is a crazy comp, but man, I have similar feelings about Emeka Egbuka as I did about Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out of USC. I just think that if they put him in a position to succeed, he's going to be, maybe a flanker slot. You want him off the line, that's fine. But I just feel as if, again, given the construction of this roster, where you're looking at Mike Evans on one side, you've got Chris Godwin on the inside. And hopefully they keep Chris Godwin mostly in the slot because I think he's just been so good there. But if Emeka Egbuka is off the line playing flanker, I mean, you talk about pick your poison. You're going to put your second best outside, corner on this dude. I just think, again, I really have high hopes for Emeka Egbuka. And to me, again, he has some of those same vibes as Amon-Ra St. Brown, because what I loved about Amon-Ra was, man, he was just an absolute dog on the football field. And that is something that you really can't capture in all the numbers. And so that's what I really like about Ibuka coming into this Tampa Bay prospect.
Yeah. Last paragraph of the charting profile for prospect Emeka Egbuka. There are many parts of Ibuka's RP data that reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown's early NFL data. So yeah, I do think, the comp is similar. I think there's a couple reasons why. Geez, I just went down on my chair. Knocked the lever. Anyways, leave it in. Who cares? So for St. Brown and Ibuka, one of the things that is actually pretty similar. And Baker Mayfield talked about this in an interview, I believe, on the New Heights show with the Kelsey brothers, where he just brought up Ibuka unprompted. And this is something Daniel Jeremiah and I have talked about over the years on one of my shows. He was a guest on. We talked about like receivers who are grounded through the catch. Like they don't, leave their feet unnecessarily. They're really confident through the catch. Like just stay grounded. You put it on them and then they just go. Like it creates a lot of yak opportunities because Ibuka, I don't think is much of a tackle breaker. Actually, that was an area that I wanted to see like a little bit of growth from him. We went down on first contact on a relatively high 70% of his in space attempts as a prospect. But he did make plays after the catch because of like he has good vision, he just is like good awareness of where he is, and he's grounded through the catch. Like he runs in breakers, you put the ball on him and he can just like find grass, like find space. And yeah, again, I love to see him be like a guy who can stack multiple broken tackles on itself, but that alone is going to make him a yak threat in the league. And that's why St. Brown is like a really good yak threat in the league, because he's very grounded through the catch. You see it consistently in Detroit that like he runs in breakers, he stays grounded, and he just gets rolling. That's one area where I think obviously Mayfield himself is talking about why that's a really good thing for this offense. And elsewhere too, like two other reasons I think he's a really good fit with Mayfield is you look at his reception perception success rate by route chart, all of the outbreakers, outs, comebacks, flat routes, corners, like they're all green. They're all above the prospect average. He ran them all at least an average rate as a prospect. Baker Mayfield, like I talked about, Dave Canales comes in there immediately like, all right, how do I get Mike Evans activated on out routes? Because Baker Mayfield likes to play them. I likes to throw them. Chris Godwin last year, Liam Cohen, how do we get him running quick out routes from the slot? Like that's what Mayfield loves. Egbuka can do that. That's a big part of it, in addition to what he does over the middle of the field. And then secondly, like this guy probably had the best hands in the class last year. He's somebody that didn't drop a lot of passes and had a contested catch rate of 75%. Baker, again, like loves to throw into tight windows. He always believes that his arm can cash those checks that he's going to write. And I think that he is definitely a guy that he might be more slot mostly, but he's not slot only. And like McMillan here is somebody that can, like do some of the vertical stuff too. Is definitely more of like a downfield player than a layup guy, whereas Ibuka I think is going to provide a lot of layups. So yeah, again, I love Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's one of my favorite receivers in the league. He's always been a guy that I like dating back to his prospect profile. I'm rooting for him, but definitely I think like he might be a slow start to the season candidate, and then just like Emeka Egbuka just gets rolling here. Like I think there's enough room for all these guys. This is a good passing offense here.
Yeah, it's a good passing offense. It's a good pass catching group. In my opinion. And the last thing I'll say about Emeka Egbuka that I think, and by the way, when the pick first happened, if you guys go back and listen to the post-draft analysis that Matt and I did, I didn't like the pick for Tampa Bay, right? Because I'm like, because I wanted Emeka Egbuka to go to a place where he could get a big runway. So I didn't like it for Emeka Egbuka. But after talking with Matt and having this conversation with you, man, like it's much more about like, okay, this was good for the team. Right? It's good for Tampa Bay. I don't think it's great for Emeka Egbuka, especially in fantasy. Forget about the fantasy aspect of it. But from a team building standpoint, great for Tampa Bay. The last thing I'll say about Emeka Egbuka in regards to the team building aspect is this wide receiver group, while it is really good, it's again, they've got their frontline starters. Emeka Egbuka is the only player I think on this pass catching group roster that adds a lot of juice after the catch and just is a much more twitchy athlete in the short area than anyone else they have on the roster. From a combine standpoint, Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan have very similar numbers, but I don't think you can compare what they do in the short area at all. Ibuka is just a much more quick twitch athlete in that 0 to 5 yard range.
Yeah, 1,000%. And like you look at Jalen McMillan's profile on the website, he's like 24th percentile or fewer against man zone and press coverage, which, like I said earlier, that doesn't mean he sucks or whatever. Just like he has strengths and weaknesses. He's not a full field player because like his best routes are like his corner route success rate is 81.8%. It's obnoxiously high. Like good success rate on the 9 route, 63%. Post route success rate over 70%. Dig route success rate over 70%, because he is definitely a guy that like, when he gets rolling downfield, he can be really snappy at the break points. Honestly, kind of like almost like a Jerry Jeudy type of player as well. Like you want to get him. Don't have him running these like short routes because he's not like he's not as decisive enough as a route runner. But like when you can get him rolling down the field, he can snap off at the break point and give you these wide windows, which complements Emeka Egbuka really well. So yeah, I mean, look, let's be clear. We're talking about like I think that. Like I said, Emeka Egbuka could be the most productive rookie wide receiver this year, like that, because he's talented and this is a very good offense. That being said, if what happened to like Rome Odunze last year, where he's just behind two veteran wide receivers because Mike Evans doesn't get hurt, he doesn't fall off, and Chris Godwin comes back and he's balling and we're rolling, that's also very, very, very possible. And nobody should be surprised. Same thing happened to Jackson Smith-Njigba 2 years ago behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. That being said, this Bucs offense is way better than the Bears offense last year. And is definitely better than what the Seahawks were a couple years ago. So it's a bet on the environment, I think, for Ibuka. And also again, like Mike Evans last year was deal, Chris Godwin coming back from an injury, getting up there in years, like Ibuka and McMillan could be the 1-2 for this team. I doubt that, I think McMillan's more of a 3. So again, like even if Mike Evans is gone after this year, then it's Godwin and it's McMillan and it's Emeka Egbuka. Like that's a nice 1, 2, 3 there.